Hi, hello everyone. I'm Louise Birritteri. I'm the CEO and founder of Pikl, and I'm also on the board of the STAA. And today we've got Merilee Karr, CEO of TrustedStays and UnderTheDoormat Group, and also Paul Beukers from Katanox to talk about their exciting new partnership. So welcome both of you.
Good afternoon.
Paul, perhaps I can go to you first. It'd be lovely to hear a bit more about Katanox. What do you do?
Yes, so I'm Paul Beukers, indeed, one of the founders of Katanox. So what we're trying to do with Katanox is really take a tech-first approach on how hospitality distribution and payments are currently being done within the hospitality industry. So if you look at how a typical hospitality transaction works, if you want to book a room via a third party, like an OTA, a travel agent, or a travel management company, 4 different elements happen in the background. First, you need to have the right content, static content, pictures and descriptions to be displayed to the customer. Then you will be able to book the hotel room directly into the reservation or the property management system of the hotel. 3, you need to be able to pay out the hotel room. This normally still happens using an instrument called a virtual credit card. And then 4, for every, let's take a global brand, Hilton, for every Hilton room that gets sold via a travel agent, they pay an X percentage of commission. Then this commission needs to end up back at the agency's bank account. So then you also need to make sure that that commission flow is being taken care of. We've looked at this and thought, okay, this is quite cumbersome and quite difficult, and why can't we make this simpler? So we've built one platform that allows for all of these 4 different topics, where we integrate directly into the Trusted Stays environment, to the hotel environment, and then we have different agencies in the back of on the other side of the marketplace integrating into us.
That's really exciting. You're bringing together lots of different elements of demand there, making that simpler for people. Fantastic. Merilee, can you tell us a bit more about Trusted Stays?
Yeah, well, as you know, back in the days of COVID, our industry came together under the Short-Term Accommodation Association and offered free stays to NHS workers. But we all recognized that there was a much bigger opportunity than that, because, of course, we wanted to be able for our industry to sell into government. And actually, we also wanted to get access to the likes of the Global Distribution System, or GDS, and corporate bookings. So coming out of COVID, what we actually were able to achieve were a couple of things. Number one was that we managed to win the first ever RFP into government as an industry, so working together collectively. And that secondly, we were able to win and do a global deal with Amadeus to push short-term rental inventory into the global distribution system through a combined connection for the very first time globally. So some pretty important milestones for us as an industry. And all of this has been possible actually because what the disconnect was historically was most corporates never saw the need for short-term rentals in the past before COVID. Hotel rooms, maybe some service departments, they were kind of quite happy with that. But consumers have moved on. Consumers want to be able to stay in our type of product. They want the option to stay in a really nice apartment or a home when they're relocating cities, all these types of things. And of course, our industry provides an incredible array of products that we want consumers to know and be able to easily book. And of course, traditionally, our sector has relied heavily on the OTAs, your booking.coms, your Airbnbs, etc. And that works for a good portion of properties in our industry or small property management companies. But as companies scale and also look for year-round demand and different sources of demand, particularly in the current environment, which is a bit softer than what we're seeing post-COVID, people are looking for other demand channels. And what Trusted Stays does is ensures that only the accredited high quality inventory is able to be sold into corporates, because of course the corporates have their own rules around making sure health and safety is in place, duty of care, and that ultimately they're professionally managed. And so by bringing together all the professionally managed inventory in Trusted Stays, we're now able to do these strategic partnership deals that connect our industry through single connections into other industries, like what Katanox is doing in bringing together all the TMCs and that demand. So for us, it's really exciting because this is just part of the Trusted Stays journey of going from helping out in a crisis situation, coming together as an industry, and ultimately creating opportunities for all the professionally managed businesses in our sector to access new demand channels.
And that sits really nicely, I think, with the work at STAA around accreditation. And can you tell me a bit more about how that links in with the quality standards at Trusted Stays and what, you know, property managers need to meet if they want to list on Trusted Stays, and how that also links in with what's required through that GDS contract?
Yeah, so look, the two requirements to be on the Trusted Stays platform are that you have to be a member of a relevant industry association. So for most of our partners, that is the Short-Term Accommodation Association. And so having that connection, of course, they're signed up to the Code of Conduct. They are already demonstrating that they are an industry player who cares about standards and who cares about doing things properly. And then secondly, they need to be accredited. So we need to have a third party validating that they're meeting all the health and safety and duty of care standards. And so that partnership that STAA has with Quality and Tourism around accreditation is then, of course, the other thing, which is an important component to actually selling on Trusted Stays. So before anyone takes their first booking on Trusted Stays, they need to demonstrate that they are accredited, so that we're able to guarantee to all of the corporates and the travel management companies who have their own standards, that actually all of the legal requirements, all of the safety requirements, cleanliness standards, etc., are being met by all of the operators that are part of Trusted Stays. And that's what gives these corporates the confidence to book these types of properties. Because what we've often heard is that they cannot just let their employees go and book on an OTA, because the OTAs, by their very nature, cannot guarantee the standards. They can put tick boxes on and all these different things, but they are not able to guarantee that all of those things are in place, because there hasn't been an inspection of the property. There hasn't been a way to actually test and verify that those properties meet those required standards.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you're really bringing together all of the supply there, making sure it meets those appropriate standards, so that you can then, list that appropriately in the corporate environment. It's really exciting. And Paul, just to go back to kind of what you're saying, I mean, from me from the outside, it feels like quite a sort of a complex environment that you're dealing with there, actually bringing the demands together. And I just wanted to delve into that into a little bit more detail. So how have you actually done that? You must have, been able to use lots of tech in order to really bring that all together, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Yeah, if we just look at how basically hospitality distribution has been built up over the years, is that every channel has been built for a single purpose of travel, whereas the OTA affiliate programs were built if you were a small travel agency focusing on the leisure side of things that want to get up and running and have a vast network of the OTA affiliates behind that. But then, or if you were just a small TMC that wants to increase their reach. But then if you want to have a more bespoke agreement and you wanted to have a direct the contract with the hotel with also corporate negotiated rates attached to him, you had to move to the global distribution systems. Then you're stuck between already the OTAs and the GDSs. And then you had companies like channel managers, switches that were going to be a one-to-many approach where everybody tried to take a piece of the pie. So what we've looked at is that there's the whole notion that everything is also more blending into each other, where you mix business and pleasure with the beautiful name Bleasure. Now together, you also see that now how we approach distribution, where we say it doesn't really matter what type of buyer you are on our platform, because we want to make sure that all the rates that the hotel or the accommodation partner has available is able to distribute that via our platform. But I think the most important thing that we want to do with Katanox is we take a different approach to our colleagues within the industry, is where we are very much focused on building financial infrastructure for this industry. Because if you look at how virtual credit cards, how expensive they are, and still that in a lot of different hotels where the virtual credit card gets sent via fax or via email, and then you have to manually type it into your payment terminal. That's just so much friction at the front office that we try to eliminate by automating everything via bank transfers.
Well, that's really good. And what does that then mean for the property managers that are connecting in then? So is this hard for them to integrate into your combined processes, or how do they do that? Is it very much like integrating with an OTA?
Yeah, so no, we integrate into the PMSs. That's the first point of contact that the hotel or the accommodation has. They have a property management system that runs all of the operations for that property. But if you talk about more global chains, because they acquire or get a lot of hotels with different PMSs, they have another layer in front of it called a central reservation system. So that's the second point of integration that we have. And then everything that sits behind that is available for us to distribute the rates from the get-go. But since we're now a regulated company within the European Economic Area, we just a couple of months ago got our PSD2 license there. So what we now do is we onboard all these individual properties or the owner groups for Know Your Customer to make sure that we have we know exactly who they are, who their owners are, so we can pay them out with confidence. That is one thing that the virtual credit card brings with a high cost, but it's trust that you will get paid because you will issue a single card and that will end up at the hotel in the end. But what we want to do is we want to make sure that if we have the money and it is in our foundation or our escrow account, that we also know exactly who we pay it out to for a fraction of the cost.
And
how does it work from
on that? I think the key and where the TrustedStays and Katanox partnership comes in is that obviously TrustedStays has connections to a lot of the major PMSs in our industry. So the likes of Guesty or STAA with an H, which is a channel management company. So we're able to push all of the inventory which sits in TrustedStays that comes in through our industry PMSs through a single connection into Katanox. And so that's where all the individual operators or property management companies don't need to go and build another connection themselves. They don't need to go and lobby to their PMS to say, please, can you build this connection? That's actually the role that TrustedStays is playing by bringing together not just the property management companies, but also the PMSs in our industry and creating that connectivity so that we're able to push all of the inventory from across our industry, which meets the right criteria, straight through into Katanox and into the TMC environment.
And just for those that don't know very much about the GDS and the types of bookings there, can you tell us a bit more about who those clients are and how that's really unique distribution that short-term rentals are going to be able to access?
Yeah, so I mean, look, the GDS, of course, is one channel and Katanox is the other. Both of them are there to help us access this corporate demand. So these are, demand that comes from what's called a TMC or a travel management company. Some of the names of travel management companies that people might be familiar with are like Amex GBT, probably one of the largest in the world, Carlson Wagonly, but there are loads of them, many of which our industry is not very familiar with, actually. But for anyone who's worked in a corporate before, they'll often remember that every time you book a trip where you're traveling for work, you have to log on to a portal and you have to book your hotel and your flights and everything through this portal. That's really what the travel management companies are providing. They're providing the product that people in those corporates are able to purchase. And obviously corporates do this because it gives them more control, more visibility, and it also gives them protection because, of course, if anything were to happen, it's all been vetted, it's all known inventory, it's approved suppliers, all those types of things. So it provides that duty of care and also that liability protection that ultimately corporates want, which is why most corporates don't just let people go and book on Airbnb or book on an OTA, because actually they have that duty of care and ultimately that liability to ensure that anytime an employee is traveling, that everything goes smoothly and that they've done the right things to show that they're treating that they are caring about the health and safety of their employees. So that's basically that side of things. Now, the whole point is these travel management companies and the corporates that work with them are, as I would put it for our sector, the walled garden. Hotels have kind of had them exclusively. And most employees would go onto those portals and they would say, well, I don't have the choice to stay in an apartment or a home when I travel. And that's the fundamental shift that we want to change as Trusted Stays, is that we want to be bringing our inventory from our industry to the corporates. We have to meet that criteria to be able to do it. But obviously with accreditation, industry association membership, et cetera, we're able to do that now and demonstrate that we do have standards in our industry. And at the same time, what we want to do is make it really easy because, excuse me, for property management companies that are already managing multiple channels and all these things, they are probably not going to have the resource to go out and talk to all the corporates in their local area, try and understand how to get into these demand channels. And with all the best will in the world, even if they did go and knock on all those doors, if they aren't in the GDS or they're not in Katanox, they're simply not going to get booked.
Yeah.
And so that's exciting because it actually is opening up this walled garden for our industry for the very first time, so that we can access those bookings that in the past were the exclusive preserve of the hotels.
And Paul, how is that being received on the TMC side? Are they, really interested to be able to access short-term accommodation stock?
Well, so funny thing is that there was a recent survey by MasterCard, and they found that 53% of those questioned in coordinating travel for their companies say that they allow them to book vacation rentals. So although the market is still small, it is growing quite significantly. And we have some very big enterprise partners requesting us specifically, okay, how are you doing with Trusted Stays? So how does your inventory look like on the short-term rental side of things? So there's a lot of opportunity there, absolutely.
And I just want to delve a little bit into the sort of seasonality point that Merilee was alluding to earlier. So, it's very interesting if you can have demand coming through the year, but one would assume if it's corporate bookings, it's likely to be almost the opposite of what you're going to see for leisure. Is that how it works?
That's exactly how it works. So we just came out of summer, right? And we've seen the seasonality. We've seen that quite seriously in our numbers. But then again, our focus now is growing on the corporate side of things. But we're already also now launching on the OTA side of things, on the leisure side of things. But seasonality is a very real thing in the summer. There's not a lot of corporate events going on. Some companies even shut down within the whole month of August that we work with. So yes, seasonality is a real thing.
Fantastic. Thanks very much for that. Well, I'm conscious of time. I think it's been really exciting to hear about both Katanox and Trusted Stays, and I'll be watching closely to see how this evolves. But any final thoughts, Merilee, from you?
No, I mean, look, I think what is really exciting is that for our industry, these are channels and partnerships that have been under development now for the past couple of years. And now that they're live and now that we're able to start to see that demand really flow into our industry, I think the timing couldn't be better, because I think everyone across our industry knows that the market for demand is a bit softer. And so that ability to complement direct bookings and OTAs with corporate demand and the channels that Trusted Stays is now giving access to property management companies to access is incredibly exciting, and I think is going to help our industry grow, gain more prominence, and also to hopefully have more people experiencing our product and wanting to come back when they book their next holiday.
Yeah, very exciting. And any final thoughts from you, Paul, from Katanox?
Yeah, I'm just insanely excited to see where this is going. Where we're seeing very, very good growth on our platform, and now it is really about executing the whole financial side of things, and that just the innovation that's currently happening left and right, that really excites me. And I think connecting in the end, being a two-sided marketplace where there is no more intermediaries in between, where data flows freely between buyers and sellers, and they can really come together to create and foster direct partnerships. I think it will open up a lot within the hospitality side of things.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, guys. Really exciting to hear about your new partnership, and look forward to hearing more in due course.
Thank you.
Thank you.